Welcome, 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 Nancy. I thought that was you, Kyler. I was gonna guess, but then I didn't want to be wrong. Yay! How are you? Where are you? I'm so happy to see you. It must be, I'm assuming, late where you are. Would love to hear how everything is. You don't have to say anything here, but generally, glad to have you. Awesome. Oh, that makes my night. Hi, we've got a couple Nancys here. Excuse me. Yeah, and I'm very happy to be here with you tonight. Well, tonight for me, so I'm in Bali, for those who don't know. For some reason, there's only like 3 bubbles of people on my screen, so I can't see anybody else. So if you want to say hi, say hi. Yeah. I actually want to take a minute just to share something that's on my heart, because it's on my heart and it's here and I'm sad. Yeah, and I know I'm not the only one that has this dynamic or has had it in their life. Hi, Elizabeth and J.E. But yeah, I'm sad about my sister. Yeah, she's got a problem with alcohol and drugs, and yeah, it's just really upsetting. So I've been feeling that all day because some things happened, and for some reason right before coming on here, because I was going to talk to my other sister. I'm going to talk to her after this. So yeah, it's kind of top of mind. And I feel really sad. And those of you that know me know I've been in alcohol and drug addiction recovery for a long time. And yeah, just this is what's here. This is what is. Hi, Rosetta. Thank you so much. Yeah. If anyone's lost loved ones, I lost an ex-boyfriend to addiction. But it's sad when you watch the progression and then you're kind of like saying goodbye, while they're still here. So, yeah. And I get to just be and do my best. And yeah, so thank you. And also, we are here for a divine purpose and reason. Thank you. Hi, Heather. Where we are going to be studying Conversations with God. Book 1, we're going to be continuing into that. And actually, the chapter that we're on is on relationships. Everything is relationships, so I can even apply the principles to this. Yeah. Yes, she does. She does have children. A little, not small, but whatever. Yes, she does. Hi, Britt. Thank you. I thought of you earlier. Yeah. So, if you are new to me, I know Rosetta, I think it's your first time. Please say hello if you would like. And I'm just introduce myself briefly. I'm Natalie, spiritual life coach and Reiki master teacher, intuitive, living in Bali. yeah, so you can check me out, all that good stuff. Follow me here, there, everywhere. Give a donation if you would like. And thank you all for your support and your presence, just generally. Yeah, I put out a new track, Take Your Power Back from them, Shamanic Healing. I also have a newer track, Reiki, Bliss, Sleep, Talk Down, Meditation. So appreciate those who have listened and reviewed. They're getting some good plays and ratings, so I thank you all for that. Yeah, and there's always things I'm doing, things I'm up to, and yeah, if you want to know more, reach out. All that good, yummy stuff. Tomorrow, so wait, yeah, in like 12 hours, I will be live again for Saturday Night Live, which is our fun and powerful weekly session where I draw and do a longer collective card reading that's always fun and powerful. I do in one-on-one card readings as well, privately, as well as Reiki, Ancestral Clearing, and spiritual life coaching. So yeah, stay tuned for that. In the morning for me in Bali, in the night for some of you. Yes, so we're going to be reading from this book. There's also, I have a link to an audio version. If you like this and want to listen on your own, you can send me a message. I can send that to you. And we're going to be reading this today. And before we start, I want to ask, does anybody not know this book, Conversations with God, or not know the author, heard of him, Neale Donald Walsch? Yeah, I just want to get briefly a read on that. I know many of you have been here and know this book. But yeah, going once, going twice. And if you are new and if it's your first time, don't worry. You don't need to have read before or anything like that. Like wherever you're coming in, if you've missed sessions, it's fine. You're going to hear what you need to hear today because you're here to hear it. So just trust that. Excuse me. Hi, Lisa. Great. So I'm so glad. It's always exciting to introduce this book. Yay! We've got a couple new people with the Conversations with God. So I'll just briefly explain it and then we'll get into it. So the author was at a very low place in his life, and he'd had a lot of struggles in his life, just normal stuff, but like problems with, not making enough money and jobs and getting fired. And I think he had a number of marriages and just relationship issues and just kind of normal human stuff. He's American. And one night he was really just upset and angry and whatever. And so he started writing a letter to God and just was like, why, where are you? Why are you doing this to me? Like, kind of like a cry of like anger and just, yeah, questioning where's God, because he just was at a low point in his life. And so he asked, I forgot what he asked, but he wrote this down. And then the way he explains it is he says, God answered. So he explains it that like just something wanted to be written in response to this theoretical question, and thus began a conversation with God that has now turned into, just a very popular and impactful teaching, this book, and it's a series of books. I mean, he wrote many of them. It's a movement. It's huge. So from that low point, all of this came. So it's basically, the book is a conversation with God, and he asks God everything that everyone's always, wanted to ask, and the answers are amazing. And it talks about the mystery of the universe, existence, God, why we're here, where we came from, like everything, why bad things happen to good people, like anything you can think of. So if that's interesting to you and you are new to it and you're jumping in right now, which is totally fine. But I also have all of my live replays available on my YouTube channel in a playlist, a Conversations with God playlist. If you want to experience it in this format, I can send you the link, send me a message. Or as I said, I can send me a message. I can send you the audio link if you want to listen, so I can share those resources with you. So, hi Aisha. So sorry to hear about your husband passing almost 3 weeks ago. Yeah, sending love to you. Glad you're here. And maybe something will bring comfort to you in this session. That's would be my wish. I can't think off my top of my head. But yeah, I'll hold the intention that you will receive something, as everyone will, that will be beneficial and helpful in whatever way that is for you. So yeah, glad you're here. So I'm just going to read, and then when I want to stop, I'll stop. And if y'all have questions, you can ask. A discussion, if you want to have a discussion in the comments, that's great. This book can push your buttons because it talks about controversial stuff, about religion, etc. So this is not a religious book. It talks about religion, so the word God is just a generic. It's not symbolizing any religion, so just so you know. And my invitation to you is, if it hits something that touches your ego, or you have an issue with it or something, that's totally fine. I'm not here to convince you of anything. My invitation would be that you just step back and be the witness of that, and be like, oh, isn't that interesting? That's hitting my stuff, and then maybe keep an open mind and see if there might be something new, because it can, depending on the passages where we are in the book, can challenge people's beliefs. So let's go ahead and dive in. And if you are following along, I know some of you have gotten the book and are in it. We are on page 136. The top of the page. So we're just going to jump in and just flow, and trust. I mean, it's been a while since we've done it. This maybe a week or so. So we'll just jump right in. Yet the thinking mind begs to ask, if God has a way she wants me to be, why didn't she simply create me that way to begin with? Why all this struggle for me to overcome who I am in order for me to become what God wants me to be? This the probing mind demands to know, and rightly so, for it's a proper inquiry. The religionists would have you believe that I created you as less than who I am, so that you could have the chance to become as who I am, working against all odds, and I might add, against every natural tendency I am supposed to have given you. Among these so-called natural tendencies is the tendency to sin. You are taught that you are born in sin, that you will die in sin, and that to sin is your nature. One of your religions even teaches you that you can do nothing about this. Your own actions are irrelevant and meaningless. It's arrogant to think that by some action of yours you can get to heaven. There is only one way to heaven, salvation, and that is through no undertaking of your own, but through the grace granted you by God through acceptance of His Son as your intermediary. Once this is done, you are saved. Until it is done, nothing that you do, not the life you live, not the choices you make, not anything you undertake of your own will in an effort to improve yourself or render you worthy, has any effect, bears any influence. You are incapable of rendering yourself worthy because you are inherently unworthy. You were created that way. Why? God only knows. Perhaps He made a mistake. Perhaps He didn't get it right. Maybe He wishes He could have it all to do over again. But there it is. What to do? So I forgot to say, I said it's a conversation, but sometimes the author is talking and God is talking. So what I just read was God talking. And already, we jumped right into a pretty juicy bit there. So, hi Larry. Yeah, I'm a friend of Bill. I don't know if that's the recovery you're in, but yeah. Class of 99. The book is called Conversations with God. So now the author says to God, "You're making mock of me." And then God answers, "No, you're making mock of me. You are saying that I, God, made inherently imperfect beings, then have demanded of them to be perfect or face damnation. You are saying then that somewhere several thousand years into the world's experience I relented, saying that from then on you didn't necessarily have to be good, you simply had to feel bad when you were not being good, and accept as your Savior the one being who could always be perfect, thus satisfying my hunger for perfection. You are saying that my Son, who you call the one perfect one, has saved you from your own imperfection, the imperfection I gave you. In other words, God's Son has saved you from what His Father did. This is how many of you say, I've set it up. Now, who is mocking whom? Whew. Does that touch on anything for anyone? And I'm not here to debate or argue. I'm just reading from the book, so you can take it or leave it. And also, it's a pretty, compelling argument if you just look at logic. Hi, Keela. I see Marielle. So, now, author says again, that's the second time in this book you seem to have launched a frontal attack on fundamentalist Christianity. I'm surprised. God says, you've chosen the word attack. I'm simply engaging the issue. And the issue, by the way, is not fundamentalist Christianity, as you put it. It's the entire nature of God and of God's relationship to man. The question comes up here because we were discussing the matter of obligations in relationships and in life itself. You cannot believe in an obligationless relationship because you cannot accept who and what you really are. You call a life of complete freedom spiritual anarchy. I call it God's great promise. It is only within the context of this promise that God's great plan can be completed. You have no obligation in relationship. You have only opportunity. Opportunity, not obligation, is the cornerstone of religion, the basis of all spirituality. So long as you see it the other way around, you will have missed the point. Gecko. Relationship, your relationship to all things, was created as your perfect tool in the work of the soul. I'm going to read that again. I have it highlighted. Relationship, your relationship to all things, was created as your perfect tool in the work of the soul. That is why all human relationships are sacred ground. It is why every personal relationship is holy. In this, many churches have it right. Marriage is a sacrament, but not because of its sacred obligations, rather because of its unequaled opportunity. Never do anything in relationship out of a sense of obligation. Do whatever you do out of a sense of the glorious opportunity your relationship affords you to decide and be who you really are. So that's really important and powerful. And I talk about codependency sometimes. Well, we talk about the dynamics of it a lot. And also thinking about it in the way that it manifests as doing things out of obligation to people please or to enable. I want to challenge all of you. Start noticing everywhere in all of your relationships, where are you doing things out of obligation? Really think about this and stop. Where in your relationships do you do things out of obligation? If you're really aware and honest, you'll see it a lot. And my challenge to you is the next time this comes up, or maybe you might have a dynamic where you're doing things a lot, like maybe you agreed to take care of somebody's cat once a week for the next 6 months or something. Like if there's some ongoing thing and you feel you're just doing it out of obligation, I invite you to not do it. Yeah, that quote, J.E., it's okay to not be perfect as long as you feel bad about it. Ooh, that hits. Hi, Amy. That's a great question. So the way I would answer that is, so it says, do whatever you do out of a sense of the glorious opportunity your relationship affords you to decide and to be who you really are. So say there's something where you feel an obligation and you feel a responsibility to where you feel that you have to, and we don't have to do anything, but if you have that sense, my I guess you could say advice or feedback would be clean up your own energy and look at how can you reframe this obligation to become an opportunity. So if you can work with yourself and your energy to then, instead of being like, oh, I have to do this and I don't want to and blah, 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 if you can change that into, oh, this is an opportunity, then that can help clean that up. So every relationship gives us the opportunity to decide and be who we really are, which this whole chapter that we're on is talking about. So Yeah, actually, I don't know if that even answers your question directly, but that's what came out, so we'll stick with that. Hi, Rochelle. So then now Neale, the author, answers. I can hear that, yet over and over in my relationships, I've given up when the going gets tough. The result is I've had a string of relationships where I thought as a kid that I'd have only one. I don't seem to know what it's like to hold on to a relationship. Do you think I'll ever learn? What do I have to do to make it happen? God says, you make it sound as if holding on to a relationship means it's been a success. Try not to confuse longevity with a job well done. Remember, your job on the planet is not to see how long you can stay in relationship. It's to decide and experience who you really are. This is not an argument for short-term relationships, yet neither is there a requirement for long-term ones. Still, while there is no such requirement, this much should be said. Long-term relationships do hold remarkable opportunities for mutual growth, mutual expression, and mutual fulfillment, and that has its own reward. I know. I mean, I've always suspected that, so how do I get there? First, make sure you get into a relationship for the right reasons. I'm using the word right here as a relative term. I mean right, relative to the larger purpose you hold in your life. As I've indicated before, most people still enter relationships for the wrong reasons, wrong being in quotes, to end loneliness, fill a gap, bring themselves love or someone to love, and those are some of the better reasons. Others do so to salve their ego, end their depressions, improve their sex life, recover from a previous relationship, or, believe it or not, to relieve boredom. None of these reasons will work, and unless something dramatic changes along the way, neither will the relationship. I didn't enter into my relationships for any of those reasons. I would challenge that. I don't think you know why you entered your relationships. I don't think you thought about it in this way. I don't think you entered your relationships purposefully. I think you entered your relationships because you fell in love. That's exactly right. And I don't think you stopped to look at why you fell in love. What was it to which you were responding? What need or set of needs was being fulfilled? For most people, love is a response to need fulfillment. For most people, love is a response to need fulfillment. Everyone has needs. You need this, another needs that. You both see in each other a chance for need fulfillment, so you agree tacitly to a trade. I'll trade you what I've got if you'll give me what you've got. It's a transaction. But you don't tell the truth about it. You don't say, I trade you very much. You say, I love you very much, and then the disappointment begins. Ooh, is this hitting home for anybody? Besides me, which I've read this before. So it's talking about most people enter, like the intention was flawed from the beginning, or it was just falling in love. And God is challenging that. It's not love, it's need fulfillment. The author says, you've made this point before. God says, yes, and you've done this thing before, not once, but several times. Sometimes this book seems to be going in circles, making the same points over and over again, sort of like life. Touché. God says. The process here is that you're asking the questions and I'm merely answering them. If you ask the same question 3 different ways, I'm obliged to continue answering it. Maybe I keep hoping you'll come up with a different answer. You take a lot of the romance out of it when I ask you about relationships. What's wrong with falling head over heels in love without having to think about it? Nothing. Fall in love with as many people as you like that way, but if you're going to form a lifelong relationship with them, you may want to add a little thought. On the other hand, if you enjoy going through relationships like water, or worse yet, staying in one because you think you have to, then living a life of quiet desperation. If you enjoy repeating these patterns from your past, keep right on doing what you've been doing. Okay, I get it. Boy, you're relentless, aren't you? That's the problem with truth. The truth is relentless. It won't leave you alone. It keeps creeping up on you from every side, showing you what's really so. That can be annoying. Okay, so I want to find the tools for a long-term relationship, and you say entering relationships purposefully is one of them. Yes, God says. Be sure you and your mate agree on purpose. And listen to this next paragraph, it's really good. If you both agree at a conscious level that the purpose of your relationship is to create an opportunity, not an obligation, an opportunity for growth, for full self-expression, for lifting your lives to their highest potential, for healing every false thought or small idea you ever had about you, and for ultimate reunion with God through the communion of your 2 souls, if you take that vow instead of the vows you've been taking, the relationship has begun on a very good note. It's gotten off on the right foot. That's a very good beginning. Still, it's no guarantee of success. If you want guarantees in life, then you don't want life. You want rehearsals for a script that's already been written. Life, by its nature, cannot have guarantees, or its whole purpose is thwarted. Okay, got it. So now I've got my relationship off to this very good start. Now, how do I keep it going? Know and understand that there will be challenges and difficult times. Don't try to avoid them. Welcome them gratefully. See them as grand gifts from God, glorious opportunities to do what you came into the relationship and life to do. Try very hard not to see your partner as the enemy or the opposition during these times. In fact, seek to see no one and nothing as the enemy or even the problem. Cultivate the technique of seeing all problems as opportunities. Opportunities to, I know, be and decide who you really are. So I have, from this chapter, created a list of my favorite quotes to remind myself over and over again. And that quote is on the list that I just read. Seek to see nothing and no one as the enemy or even the problem. If y'all want a copy of that list, send me a message and I can get that out to you if this is helpful. So we'll just pause here for a minute because we've read a bit. And does anybody have questions or comments? Has anybody joined in that doesn't know what we're doing? That wants to say, or I can share a bit about it, or we can just continue. And also too, as always, don't forget to give me a follow if you haven't yet. Give a donation if you'd like. Okay. So we'll continue. So God says, right, you're getting it, you're getting it. The author says, sounds like a pretty dull life to me. God says, then you're setting your sights too low. Broaden the scope of your horizons, extend the depth of your vision. See more in you than you think there is to be seen. See more in your partner too. You will never disserve your relationship nor anyone by seeing more in another than they are showing you, for there is more there, much more. It is only their fear that stops them from showing you. If others notice that you see them as more, they will feel safe to show you what you obviously already see. People tend to live up to our expectations of them. Something like that. I don't like the word expectations here. Expectations ruin relationships. Let's say that people tend to see in themselves what we see in them. The grander our vision, the grander their willingness to access and display the part of them we have shown them. Isn't that how all truly blessed relationships work? Isn't that part of the healing process, the process by which we give people permission to let go of every false thought they've ever had about themselves? Isn't that what I'm doing here in this book for you? Yes. And that is the work of God. The work of the soul is to wake yourself up. The work of God is to wake everybody else up. We do this by seeing others as who they are, by reminding them of who they are. This you can do in two ways. By reminding them of who they are, very difficult because they will not believe you. And by remembering who you are, much easier because you do not need their belief, only your own. Demonstrating this constantly ultimately reminds others of who they are, for they will see themselves in you. So as a coach, a life coach, I'm reminded of kind of the dynamics of coaching and my role with my clients is to see them as they truly are, not how their limited mindsets and ego and all that, the unworthiness or that I don't buy into that, that I see people as they truly are, their whole, complete, empowered, sovereign self. And what it's just saying here is it's hard to remind others of who they are. So when we come from a place where we demonstrate who we are, then that naturally feeds into the other person and helps them and basically inspires them. Does that make sense? Many masters have been sent to the earth to demonstrate eternal truth. Others, such as John the Baptist, have been sent as messengers, telling of the truth in glowing terms, speaking of God with unmistakable clarity. These special messengers have been gifted with extraordinary insight and the very special power to see and receive eternal truth, plus the ability to communicate complex concepts in ways that can and will be understood by the masses. You are such a messenger. So God is saying that to the author. And he says, I am? Yes. Do you believe this? It's such a difficult thing to accept. I mean, all of us want to be special. God says all of you are special. And then Neale, the author, says, and the ego gets in there, at least with me it does, and tries to make us feel somehow chosen for an amazing assignment. I have to fight that ego all the time, seek to purify and repurify my every thought, word, and deed so as to keep personal aggrandizement out of it. So it's very difficult to hear what you're saying because I'm aware that it plays to my ego, and I've spent all my life fighting my ego. I know you have, and sometimes not too successfully. I'm chagrined to have to agree. Yet always, when it has come to God, you have let the ego drop. Many is the night you've begged and pleaded for clarity, beseeched the heavens for insight, not so that you could enrich yourself or heap honor upon yourself, but out of the deep purity of a simple yearning to know. Yes. And you have promised me over and over again that should you be caused to know, you would spend the rest of your life, every waking moment, sharing eternal truth with others. Not out of a need to gain glory, but out of your heart's deepest desire to end the pain and suffering of others, to bring joy and gladness and help and healing, to reconnect others with a sense of partnership with God you've always experienced. Yes, yes. And so I've chosen you to be my messenger, you and many others. For now, during these times immediately ahead, the world will need many trumpets to sound the clarion call. The world will need many voices to speak the words of truth and healing for which millions long. The world will need many hearts joined together in the work of the soul and prepared to do the work of God. Can you honestly claim that you're not aware of this? No. Can you honestly deny that this is why you came? No. Are you ready then with this book to decide and to declare your own eternal truth and to announce and articulate the glory of mine? Must I include these last few exchanges in the book? You don't have to do anything. Remember, in our relationship, you have no obligation, only opportunity. Is this not the opportunity for which you've waited all your life? Have you not devoted yourself to this mission and the proper preparation for it from the earliest moments of youth? Yes. Then do not Then do not what you're obliged to do, but what you have an opportunity to do. As to placing all this in our book, why would you not? Think you that I want you to be a messenger in secret? No, I suppose not. It takes great courage to announce oneself as a man of God. You understand the world will much more readily accept you as virtually anything else, but a man of God, an actual messenger? Every one of my messengers has been defiled. Far from gaining glory, they've gained nothing but heartache. Are you willing? Does your heart ache to tell the truth about me? Are you willing to endure the ridicule of your fellow human beings? Are you prepared to give up glory on earth for the greater glory of the soul fully realized? You're making this all sound suddenly pretty heavy, God. You want I should kid you about it? Well, we could just lighten up a little here. Hey, I'm all for enlightenment. Why don't we end this chapter with a joke? Good idea. You got one? No, but you do. Tell the one about the little girl drawing a picture. So now the author is telling this story. Oh yes, that one. Okay, well, a mommy came into the kitchen one day to find her little girl at the table, crayons everywhere, deeply concentrating on a freehand picture she was creating. My, what are you so busy drawing? The mommy asked. It's a picture of God, Mommy, the beautiful girl replied, eyes shining. Oh, honey, that's so sweet, the mommy said, trying to be helpful. But you know, no one really knows what God looks like. Well, chirped the little girl, if you'll just let me finish. God says, that's a beautiful little joke. Do you know what's most beautiful? The little girl never doubted that she knew exactly how to draw me. Yes. Now I'll tell you a story, and with that we can end the chapter. All right. There once was a man who suddenly found himself spending hours each week writing a book. Day after day, he would race to pad and pen, sometimes in the middle of the night, to capture each new inspiration. Finally, someone asked him what he was up to. "Oh," he replied, "I'm writing down a very long conversation I'm having with God." "That's very sweet," his friend indulged him. "But no one really knows for sure what God would say." "Well," the man grinned, "if you'll just let me finish." So, did y'all get the joke? Yes, no, maybe, crickets. Hi, Rose. Jessica, Jules. So we covered a lot today, so we're going to wrap up. So basically in what we read today, God was challenging Christianity in some of it, and also talking about obligation versus opportunity in relationship, and then the quote normal dynamics or common dynamics of how people get into romantic relationships and why they don't last very long sometimes. That people want something from they want to get something from the person or from the experience of the relationship. And then it talked about falling in love, in quotes. And it said that it's not love, it's need fulfillment. And then it gave a list of, if you do want to have a conscious long-term relationship, how can you start out having that? And it gave a list of things to do. And then it went into talking about, God was saying that the author was a messenger, basically. So, Keela, this is number 1. So it all started with this. So that's the end of the relationships chapter. So next time, let's see. It kind of goes into the purpose of existence in the next chapter, like why are we here, what are we doing? So, don't forget to give me a follow, and then you'll be notified when I schedule more lives, which I will do. We've got Reiki, Michael Singer, and Conversations with God, as well as Saturday Night Live going. So that's a great question. He's saying that, so I'm going to go back to that paragraph. If I can find it. Yeah. So I'll reread this passage and let me know if this helps. So it says, so I want to find the tools for a long-term relationship, and you say entering relationships purposefully is one of them. Yes. Now it says here, be sure you and your mate agree on purpose. So it says then, if you both agree at a conscious level that the purpose of your relationship is to create an opportunity, not an obligation, an opportunity for growth, for full self-expression, for lifting your lives to their highest potential, for healing every false thought or small idea you ever had about you, and for ultimate reunion with God through the communion of your two souls, if you take that vow instead of the vows you've been taking, the relationship has begun on a very good note. It's gotten off on the right foot. That's a very good beginning, but no guarantee of success. So, does that help? But I would say generally that no, it's so if one person is more on a path than another, doesn't mean it's doomed. No, I would imagine, what God would say would be to, this is an opportunity. All relationships are opportunity to be and decide who you really are. So then it would come back to you. And then it talked about, see no one as the enemy or even the problem. It said there will be challenges, and welcome the challenges, be grateful for the challenges. Ram Dass would say it's grist for the mill. It's for our soul's evolution. So it doesn't matter about the other person. And actually earlier in the chapter, it says that. It says, only focus on yourself. Do not focus on the other person. So it doesn't matter what they're doing. I mean, yes, leave an abusive relationship, of course, but, it's about you. Who are you being? Who do you create yourself to be? It's an opportunity for you. So, all right, I've had a long, amazing day that started at 7:30 in the morning with a call with a beautiful client. And I've had like 4 very intense, wonderful meetings today, and it's 9 p.m. and I get to talk to my sister. I'm beat. So I will see y'all in 12 hours for Saturday Night Live. So join me for that. Reach out privately if you want to set up a one-on-one session with me. Appreciate, as always, all of you joining in. And much love, and